to another beautiful day in paradise. Now, Antigua and Barbuda is the perfect holiday destination. But if you are seduced by the lifestyle of laid-back pleasure, the beaches, the sunshine, the sailing, the turquoise waters, and you decide to just stay a little bit longer, you'll find that suddenly everyone's an expert. You'll get people saying, get an extension, no extension, work permit, 3 months, 7 months. Confused? You certainly will be. So one of the things you have to do to make sure you really don't mess up if you want to stay in Antigua longer than your tourist visa is ask the right people. So we're going to talk to the right people, starting with the Chief Executive of Immigration, Katrina Yearwood. Katrina, hi.
Pleasure to be here. What an introduction, and I think it's right because most of the information out there is misinformation. Better way to get information and clear and concise information out to the people than having these types of forums. So I'm really happy to be here.
It's great to talk to you because everybody really is an expert. When we tried to stay in Antigua, everybody knew it.
Absolutely.
Of course they knew it.
Absolutely.
So we're going to talk about some of the pitfalls, some of the ways of doing this. We're going to work our way from tourist visa to extension of stay, to residency, to citizenship, and some of the issues therein. Now, the tourist visa, obviously easy. You come in as a tourist, they give you a stamp.
Correct.
But there are some dangers with that if you want to stay a little bit longer, aren't there, Katrina?
Wouldn't quite use the word dangerous.
Not dangerous, but perhaps it's not the best thing to do.
Absolutely. So in terms of clarity, if we have somebody visiting Antigua and Barbuda, they come to the airport or they come to the seaport, they're processed in the booth by our lovely immigration officers. They are given what is called an entry permit. So an entry permit is used interchangeably as in terms of a tourist visa.
Yep.
So that's a stamp in your passport. Depending on the passport that you hold, you may be provided 6 months. So who would get 6 months? That'd be our CARICOM applicant. So anybody coming from a jurisdiction that subscribes to CARICOM, Guyana, Jamaica, just naming a few, they would get 6 months on entry.
Automatically.
Yep. What does that mean? 6 months on entry means that you have up to 6 months in Antigua and Barbuda as a bona fide tourist. So just to go deeper, what is a bona fide tourist? Well, if you're coming to visit our shores, one, you will be prohibited from working because you're here as a tourist. You're here to explore, you're here to see Antigua, get a feel of the culture, or perhaps visit a relative. Whatever your reason is for visiting, you're here as a bona fide visitor. So if it is that you have, for example, a UK passport or an American passport, then you are stamped again on entry, and this time you'd be given 3 months. So the time in which you're given is solely dependent on the passport that you have. Why is it dependent on the passport you have? It's because there are certain treaties or there's certain obligations that we would have signed on to. So CARICOM would be one, so the agreed time would be 6 months. All right, if you're an OACS, obviously that's an indefinite, OACS being Dominica, St. Lucia, you would obviously get an indefinite stay.
Right.
All right, so that's one definition, or the definition for an entry permit. What it is that you have gone past 6 months or past the 3 months, past the time that was provided to you at the airport, that's when you need to come into immigration.
Now, people don't.
Mm-hmm.
They either think, oh, it won't matter,
Mm-hmm.
or they're nervous.
Mm-hmm.
But why is it so important that you do come in, you get your extension, you legitimize your position?
Well, it's important for one reason. And that reason is when you visit a country, it could be Antigua, it could be a different jurisdiction, we are governed by laws. And so it would be not unconscionable, but it would be illegal for you to visit a country and not maintain your status. When we go to the States, when we go to the UK, you have a set of rules, we also have to adhere to them. And so basically it's just asking that that be reciprocated. In terms of security, when it is that you come for an extension, that is you coming to immigration to say, well, I've been here for 6 months or 3 months or however time that the immigration officers gave you at the airport or your port of entry, and there is a reason that you want to stay longer. For us, what we'd be looking at is, okay, well, what is that reason? Some may say, I like the country, I haven't visited all 365 beaches.
It takes a while.
It does take a while. I'd like some more time in the country. Another reason may be, well, do you know what? I have some family here. And I don't think the 3 months was a long enough time for me to see my mother, my auntie, somebody that I haven't seen in years. And that's fine. But are you able to sustain yourself during the visit here in Antigua and Barbuda? Are you able to do so without becoming a burden on the public purse? And so there are a series of questions that the immigration officers would ask you just to get a gist of why it is that you would like to remain in the country. And so you'll have an interview. There's some documentation that you would have to bring to basically verify or substantiate the reason that you want an extension. And if all things being equal and you're successful, then you will be given an additional stamp to remain in the country of Antigua and Barbuda legally.
For how long can you have an extension?
Okay, so we are governed by the Immigration and Passport Act 2014, and within that act, it states that an applicant can get an extension up to 90 days. So that doesn't automatically mean that if you come to immigration today to get an extension, that an immigration officer is going to automatically give you 90 days. What it is dependent on is what you say as to the reason you need an extension and what you were able to verify.
And can you have an option to get more than 90 days, 6 months or a year, if you can prove that you really have a good valid reason?
Well, generically it would be up to 90 days. However, there are some situations that discretion can be utilized pursuant to the Act, and that would be, for example, if you are a holiday owner, a house owner, I beg your pardon. So if you are visiting Antigua, you don't actually reside in Antigua consecutively, but you have purchased property. And so when you come to the immigration department, you say, well, you know what, I'd like a little bit more than 3 months. I'm also a property owner. I can show you that I am a property owner. And so our act would allow, obviously the discretion would be given to the Department of Immigration, but you can have up to 24 months as an extension as a property owner. So there are some variations, or there's some allowances that would allow one to have more than the average or the bog standard 3 months or 90-day extension.
But when I talked about, I used the word danger, but it's not really a danger.
No.
The problems pursuant if you just keep getting a tourist visa. Sometimes people will think, oh, I'll just go down to Guadeloupe, sail down to Guadeloupe, get the visa run, the visa and wine and cheese run they call it.
Yes.
Get another stamp and then I'm good for 3 months.
Yes.
But some of the problems with this, as far as I can work out, Katrina, is you could keep doing that and then think, oh, I want residency.
Absolutely.
And you have not had
the consecutive time. And I'm glad you brought that up, because that is a question that has plagued the Department of Immigration for as long as I've been here. And so just to add some clarity on that, so you come in, let's say I am a holder of a British passport and I get 3 months. And I say to myself, well, I can't be bothered to come into immigration to get an extension of time. Remember, I had mentioned previously the difference. One is your entry permit.
Yeah.
The other thing is when you come to immigration, you get an extension of time. 2 different definitions, 2 different things. But if it is that Tom decided, I'm not going to come into immigration, I'm going to go to Montserrat, I'm going to go to Guadeloupe, which has been done, and I'm going to come back and I'm going to get another entry stamp, and that's going to be 3 months, and I'm going to keep going back and forth and keep getting 3 months, 3 months, 3 months, 3 months consecutively. What happens is when they come to make an application thinking that they've harvested either 4 years or 7 years for citizenship, 4 years for residency, we'd have to look at them and say, but no, you're not eligible. And the reason you're not eligible is because you've not come into immigration to come off of your bona fide tourist status to now start getting an extension. So you basically have a footprint or a file open at immigration. And it's that time that we calculate for you to get either residency or citizenship. So you have some people, and I know, point in case, I had a gentleman come in and he has been in the country for a span of over 20 years. But what he failed to understand is the 20 years was harvested from him leaving the country and getting an entry stamp at the port of entries and not coming in to get the extension. And so he was like, what do you mean? I've been here for 20 years. I'm more than eligible for citizenship. Yes, sir, you have been visiting the country for over 20 years, but you have not come in to start your file, to start your footprint, as we like to say.
Now, this is really important because this is some of the advice you will get from the experts dotted around the island,
Yes.
and hence the 20 years. And I know a few people,
Yes.
quite old guys, who've been here
Absolutely.
for 20 years and think they're eligible, and that is really, really important.
Very
Now,
important.
Katrina, why are people so daunted coming into immigration when all they need to do is come in, get a stamp, explain why they're here?
I think there's a multitude of reasons, why applicants would be daunted to come in. And what's very interesting is that it actually varies depending on where you come from. That is something that I've been able to sit back and see, okay, so if you're from the United States or you're from England, your reason for not coming to immigration varies from those that perhaps maybe are from another Caribbean island.
Yeah.
That's very interesting for me to pick up on. But to answer your question, there's a multitude of reasons. Some may think, well, if I come in to immigration, they're not going to hear what I have to say, and I'm automatically going to be denied. And if I'm denied, that means I'm going straight back to my country of origin. And so I want to take this opportunity to clarify that a denied extension does not mean that you are not allowed to come back to Antigua and Barbuda. A denied extension is purely the fact that you've come into immigration, we've asked you, what is the purpose of your extension? You have not been able to satisfy us that your reason is genuine, number one. Number two, that you're able to sustain yourself during the period of which we give you an extension, and that's very important. Another reason is that perhaps maybe one of the documentations that you submitted is not above board.
Yep.
It may be that it's fraudulent, it may be, and we do have these situations, and on that basis, you would be denied an extension of time. But I want to reiterate that there is a difference between denied and deportation. Deportation goes through court. That has a more serious, the severity of that is extremely heightened. That is something that you have done, that you've broken the law, you've had to go before the courts, and there's a deportation order to remove you from the state, and you would not be allowed to return back into the state of Antigua and Barbuda. There's also a difference between a removal order. A removal order is more to do with you reaching immigration.
Right.
An
Yeah.
immigration section of our act. So for example, if you were here for 19 years and we haven't seen you, immigration has the power to ask for a removal order. Or if it is that we denied you and then you absconded somewhere, you went underground and then we found you, we have the power to do what is called a removal order. But the differentiation between a removal order and a deportation, there's still a difference. A deportation is more severe. A removal order is just saying, maybe, okay, you overstayed, and so we're going to ask you to remove. But there is a possibility for you to return
Right.
to the state.
Deportation.
Deportation is a little, yes.
And for good reasons.
And for good reasons.
Now, we've had a couple of amnesties recently.
Yes.
For people to fill in the gaps when they haven't been here.
Mm-hmm.
But what is the extent of that?
So an amnesty is basically a pardon. So with the last amnesty, which there was an extension from, if it is that I've been in the country, I've been here for 19 years, I don't have a file of immigration, I've been here illegally for 19 years, the amnesty would allow me to come into immigration to say, the 19 years that I haven't been here, you can't hold that against me because you've pardoned me. So now I'm coming to you and I would like to regularize my status.
Right, yeah.
So that allows you to be forgiven for the 19 years that you were not making your contributions, that you have not come to immigration to regularize your status. So in effect, it is basically a pardon.
So you can start again.
So timely.
Now, one of the things that we see a lot in Antigua and Barbuda, particularly down in English Harbour Way, is we get a lot of people coming in on boats.
Yes.
A lot of ships coming in, and for one reason or another, their 3 months expires. they want to stay here for the whole sailing season perhaps, or perhaps the owner sells their boat. They don't have transport. They're very limited in what opportunities they have. Can they go to the English Harbour Office, renew their visa, or get an extension?
Yes, and you know, some of the feedback that we receive, and it's very important as that we take the good, the bad, and the indifferent as it relates to feedback. It's not every day that we're going to get, you know, exemplary feedback. There are some things that, you know, are constructive criticism, and you know, we take that on the chin. One of those feedbacks has been the issue with the yachting community, and how tedious and how cumbersome it is for them to come all the way to town, especially if they do not have a vehicle.
It's just quite difficult for them.
It has been, and so we've taken that into account, and what we have done is we've allowed them to get an extension of time at the Nelson's dockyard. Now that has been going on for some time, but there has been a pause on it, and the reason that there has been a pause on it is because we have been outfitting our office down there, and making sure that we have the right mechanisms to be collecting revenue down there. So for now, in the interim, there's been a pause, but we're looking forward to resume once we get the right equipment. Right equipment being, sometimes they don't have cash on them, and they'd like to make a payment by card. So we're making sure that we've got the point of sale equipment down there, a proper safe down there, unlocked. But because at the end of the day, it is government revenue that is being collected outside of our headquarters. So I'm very pleased to announce that we should be having that up and running hopefully before Easter, so that they can resume going down there and making their applications.
And we'll make sure we put a note to that effect
on
this video. Katrina, let's talk to some of the other people in your team, the experts on some of these areas.
So there we leave it for the moment. But join us again for parts 2, 3, possibly even 4, and find out how you can stay just a little bit longer, or even live in the beautiful twin islands of Antigua and Barbuda. Make sure you hold on to the end to find a link to one of Antigua and Barbuda's most beautiful, historic and fascinating sites. Welcome to paradise.